The class Dinosauria was originally defined by Sir Richard Owen of the Royal Society and Superintendent of the British Museum Natural History Department in 1842, or in other words, the existence of dinosaurs was first speculatively hypothesized by a knighted museum head coincidentally in the mid-19th century during the heyday of evolutionism, before a single dinosaur fossil had ever been found. The Masonic media and mainstream press worldwide got to work hyping stories of these supposed long-lost animals, and then, lo and behold, 12 years later, in 1854, Ferdinand Vanderveer Hayden, during his exploration of the upper Missouri River, found proof of Owen's theory. A few unidentified teeth he mailed to leading paleontologist Joseph Leidy, who several years later declared them to be from an ancient, extinct Trachodon dinosaur, which, beyond ironically, means rough tooth. Firstly, it should be needless to say that it is impossible to reconstruct an entire hypothetical ancient animal based on a few teeth. But even more importantly, it is dubious that a myriad of ancient reptile, bird, and reptile-mammal transitional forms necessary for the blossoming theory of evolution would be hypothesized and then conveniently discovered by teams of evolutionist archaeologists purposely out looking to find such fossils. And it is even more dubious that such fossils have supposedly existed for millions of years, but were never found by or known to any civilization in the history of humanity until evolutionism's Masonic Renaissance in the mid-19th century. David Wozni wrote, "Why are there no discoveries by Native Americans in all the years previous when they roamed the American continents? There is no belief of dinosaurs in the Native American religion or tradition. For that matter, why were there no discoveries prior to the 19th century in any part of the world? According to the World Book Encyclopedia, before the 1800s, no one ever knew that dinosaurs existed. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, large deposits of dinosaur remains were discovered. Why has man suddenly made all these discoveries? No tribes, cultures, or countries in the world ever discovered a dinosaur bone before the mid-1800s, and then they were suddenly found all over the world in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Argentina, Belgium, Mongolia, Tanzania, West Germany, and many other places apparently had large deposits of dinosaur fossils never before seen. All these places were inhabited and well explored for thousands of years before this time. Why had no one ever found a dinosaur fossil before?" According to the book The Dinosaur Project, paleontological journalist Wayne Grady claims the period following this, from around 1870 to 1880, became a period in North America where some of the most underhanded shenanigans in the history of science were conducted. In what was known as the Great Dinosaur Rush, or the Bone Wars, Edward Drinker Cope of the Academy of Natural Sciences and Othniel Marsh of the Peabody Museum of Natural History began a lifelong rivalry and passion for dinosaur hunting. They started out as friends, but became bitter enemies during a legendary feud involving double-crossing, slander, bribery, theft, spying, and destruction of bones by both parties. Marsh is said to have discovered over 500 different ancient species, including 80 dinosaurs, while Cope discovered 56. Out of the 136 dinosaur species supposedly discovered by the two men, however, only 32 are presently considered valid, as the rest have all proven to be falsifications and fabrications. None of them once claimed to find a complete skeleton either, so all their work involved reconstructions. In fact, to this day, no complete skeleton has ever been found, and so all dinosaurs are reconstructions. David Wozni wrote, "Discoveries and excavations seem not to be made by disinterested people such as farmers, ranchers, hikers, outdoor recreationists, building construction industry basement excavators, pipeline trench diggers, and mining industry personnel, but rather by people with a vested interest such as paleontologists, scientists, university professors, and museum organization personnel who were intentionally looking for dinosaur bones or who have studied dinosaurs previously. Finds are often made during special dinosaur bone hunting trips and expeditions by these people to faraway regions already inhabited and explored. This seems highly implausible. More believable is the case of the discovery of the first original Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, which were unintentionally discovered by a child and which were all published by 1955. In some cases of a discovery of dinosaur bones by a disinterested person, it was suggested to them by some professional in the field to look or dig in a certain area. Also very interesting to note are special areas set aside and designated as dinosaur parks, for which amateur dinosaur hunters are required to first obtain a dinosaur hunting license. Whatever destination these establishment-funded archaeologists and paleontologists set, it seemed they found incredible numbers of fossils in tiny areas. In one of the largest dinosaur excavation sites, called the Ruth Mason Quarry, over 2,000 fossils were allegedly discovered. Casts and original skeletons assembled from these bones are currently on display in over 60 museums worldwide. Florentino Ameghino, head of paleontology at La Plata Museum, is amazingly responsible for 6,000 fossil species supposedly discovered throughout his career, all in Argentina. Dinosaur hunter Earl Douglas sent 350 tons of excavated dinosaur bones to the Carnegie Museum of Natural History throughout his career, all coming from the Dinosaur National Monument in Utah. During an expedition to Patagonia, Dr. Louis Chiappe and Dr. Lowell Dingus supposedly discovered thousands of dinosaur eggs at a site of only a few hundred square yards. Many experts have mentioned how such finds of huge quantities of fossils in one area by just a few highly invested individuals goes against the laws of natural probability and lends credence to the likelihood of forgeries or concentrated planting efforts. David Wozni wrote, "Dinosaur bones sell for a lot of money at auctions. It is a profitable business. There is pressure for academics to publish papers. Museums are in the business of producing displays that are popular and appealing. Movie producers and the media need to produce material to sell to stay in business. The mainstream media loves to hype alleged dinosaur finds. Much is to be gained by converting a bland, non-dinosaur discovery of a bone of modern origin into an impressive dinosaur find, and letting artists' interpretations and imaginations take the spotlight rather than the basic, boring, real find. There are people who desire and crave prestige, fame, and attention. There is the bandwagon effect and crowd behavior. And then there are people and entities pursuing political and religious agendas. Highly rewarding financial and economic benefits to museums, educational and research organizations, university departments of paleontology, discoverers and owners of dinosaur bones, and the book, television, movie, and media industries may cause sufficient motivations for ridiculing of open questioning and for suppression of honest investigation. The fact that T-Rex bones have sold at auctions for upward of $12 million shows how lucrative the field of dinosaur hunting can be, and it just happens to be museum officials who serendipitously seem to make the most prolific finds. The first dinosaur to ever be publicly displayed was the Hadrosaurus folci at Edward Drinker Cope's Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia. The bones were co-discovered by Joseph Leidy, Cope's esteemed professor, and the man responsible for the Trachodon Toothosaurus. The original Hadrosaurus reconstruction, which is still on display today, shows a huge plaster-cast bipedal reptile standing upright, using its tail as a third leg. What few people know, however, is that no skull was ever discovered and no original bones were put in the public exhibit. David Wozni wrote, "A visual and a sculptural artist were promptly hired to invent a skull, and from the illustrations of another artist, who had depicted the iguanodon, the two artists drew the same face for the Hadrosaurus folci. The people involved could now technically defend the existence of this dinosaur if someone were to ask. The stunt worked out so well and fooled the public so thoroughly that they could later change the head of the creature without anyone noticing. To this day, Hadrosaurus folci is on display at the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia. The bones are said to be kept behind heavy closed doors, but a plaster copy is exhibited in their place. So we learn of an iguana skull being substituted for the skull of a dinosaur on display. What was the public told at the time? What are we not being told today? What we are not being told is that this is the rule and not the exception. To this day, not a single complete skeleton of any dinosaur has ever been found. All the museum displays, models, mannequins, cartoons, and movies of prehistoric monsters you have ever seen are all imaginative reconstructions based on incomplete skeletons arranged in a manner paleontologists believe to be most realistic. Furthermore, the skeletons exhibited in museums are all admittedly intricate fabrications made of plaster, fiberglass, various epoxies, and other animal bones, not original fossils. When dinosaur bones are transported and prepared, they use strips of burlap soaked in plaster to jacket over the fossils. Then, after applying a tissue separator to keep the plaster from direct contact with the bone, the soaked burlap strips are laid on until it is totally encased in a protective, mummy-like coating ready for safe transport. In an article titled, "A Fossil's Trail from Excavation to Exhibit," one insider remarked that, "Through mold making and casting, we can totally fabricate limbs, ribs, vertebrae, etc. for the missing pieces of an articulated skeletal mount." Plaster, fiberglass, and epoxies are often and commonly used. In reconstruction work on single bones, small to large cracks can be filled in with mache or plaster mixed with dextrin, a starch that imparts an adhesive quality and extra hardness to regular molding plaster. We've also had success using epoxy putties. Large missing fragments can be sculpted directly in place with these same materials. In other words, museum personnel work with plaster and other materials to transport and fabricate skeletons and missing or incomplete bones all the time. In fact, the huge dinosaur bone displays found in museums across the world are admittedly carefully prepared fakes. No independent researcher has ever examined a real dinosaur. They claim all the actual fossils are kept in high-security storage, but only a select few paleontologists are ever allowed to examine them, so the ability to ascertain their authenticity is kept from the general public. Robin Kofod wrote, "Most people believe that dinosaur skeletons displayed in museums consist of real dinosaur bones. This is not the case. The real bones are incarcerated in thick vaults to which only a select few highly placed researchers hold a key, which means that no independent researcher has ever handled a Tyrannosaurus rex bone. When people unaffiliated with the paleontological establishment attempt to gain access in order to study these dinosaur bones, they are met with refusal upon refusal. Only around 2,100 dinosaur bone sets have been discovered worldwide, and out of these, only 15 incomplete Tyrannosaurus rex bone sets have been found. These dinosaur bone sets have never formed a complete skeleton, but from these incomplete bone sets, paleontologists have constructed a hypothesis about the appearance of the whole skeleton, which they have modeled in plastic. If thousands of long necks and large carnivorous reptiles had really roamed the earth, we wouldn't only have found 2,100 dinosaur bone sets, but millions of bones, with ordinary people tripping over them when digging in their vegetable patches." David Wasney wrote, "When children go to a dinosaur museum, are the displays they see displays of science, or displays of art and science fiction? Are we being deceived and brainwashed at an early age into believing a dinosaur myth? Deep, probing questions need to be asked of the entire dinosaur business. There may have been an ongoing effort since the earliest dinosaur discoveries to plant, mix, and match bones of various animals, such as crocodiles, alligators, iguanas, giraffes, elephants, cattle, kangaroos, ostriches, emus, dolphins, whales, rhinoceroses, etc., to construct and create a new man-made concept, prehistoric animal called the dinosaur. Where bones from existing animals are not satisfactory for deception purposes, plaster substitutes may be manufactured and used. Some materials similar or superior to plasticine clay or plaster of Paris would be suitable. Molds may also be employed. What would be the motivation for such a deceptive endeavor? Obvious motivations include trying to prove evolution, trying to disprove or cast doubt on the Bible and the existence of a God, and trying to disprove the young Earth theory. The dinosaur concept implies that if God exists, he tinkered with his idea of dinosaurs for a while, then probably discarded or became tired of this creation, and then went on to create man. The presented dinosaur historical timeline suggests an imperfect God who came up with the idea of man as an afterthought, thus demoting the biblical idea that God created man in his own image. Type dinosaur skulls into a search engine, and you will find a variety of replicas, tailor-made dinosaurs, and museum-quality skeletons. One of the largest and most renowned suppliers of fake dinosaurs is the Zigong Dino Ocean Art Company in Sichuan, China, which provides natural history museums worldwide with ultra-realistic dinosaur skeletons made from real bones. Chicken, frog, dog, cat, horse, and pig's bones are melted down, mixed with glue, resin, and plaster, then used as base material for recasting as dinosaur bones. They are even given intentional fractures and an antiquated, fossilized look to achieve the right effect. Their website boasts over 62% of our output goes to American and European markets, which means we will understand and are familiar with the intricacies and regulation of exporting to these regions. Since we are a partner of dinosaur museums, all products are made under the guidance of experts of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. We have gained a global sales network reaching the USA, Brazil, France, Poland, Russia, Germany, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, exhibited in Peru, Argentina, Vancouver, Cincinnati, Chicago, and other places. As Alan Fiducia, University of North Carolina paleontology professor, wrote, I have heard there is a fake fossil factory in northeast China, in Liaoning province near the deposits where many of these recent alleged feather dinosaurs were found. Or as David Wozni wrote, the possibility exists that key dinosaur bones on display have been artificially modified through sculpture and carving. Bone sculpture is not an unknown human activity. Many cultures participate in creating man-made objects out of existing bones, totally unrecognizable from the original shape. Is the dinosaur industry a customer of this sort of business? Is it possible that dinosaur skeleton replica are secretly assembled or manufactured in private buildings out of public view, with bones artificially constructed or used from a number of different modern-day animals? Why bother having any authentic original fossils at all if alleged replicas please the public? Another problem with dinosaurs is their unnatural structural dynamics. Many dinosaur skeletons and reconstructions feature bipedal monsters like the T-Rex with a forward-leaning torso and head far larger and heavier than its counterbalancing tail. Many museum displays cannot even stand up under their own weight. It is highly unlikely that beasts this large and disproportionate could exist at all. The loads acting on their skeletons are so great that calculations indicate the bones of the largest dinosaurs would buckle and crack under their own immense weight. Experts have also pointed out that dinosaurs would have to have moved much slower than portrayed in movies to prevent sudden shocks to their skeletons. David Wozni wrote, this idea of slow-moving animals does not agree with the biomechanical analysis of dinosaurs, which indicate that the dinosaurs were agile, active creatures. This is the paradox between the dinosaur's size and lifestyle. Many displays and drawings of dinosaurs appear to be an absurdity, showing a two-legged animal that would be totally off balance, with the weight of head and abdomen much greater than weight of tail, which is supposed to act as a counterbalance. Is the dinosaur industry a case of science trying to meet public desires or expectations? The movie Jurassic Park is an example of showing dinosaurs much larger than any current displays in museums. After the movie came out, it is interesting to note that many articles were written asking, is this possible? I can recall a report of dinosaur DNA being discovered preserved in amber, which later turned out to be false. Robin Kofod wrote, overall, several millions of dollars have been spent promoting the existence of dinosaurs through movies, TV, magazines, and comics. The world of movies and paleontology are like Siamese twins. People's view on the existence of dinosaurs is based not on firm evidence, but on Hollywood-fixated artistic impressions. Documentaries colorfully illustrate each dinosaur's characteristics, like colors, weight, and muscle mass, but Don Lessam, advisor for Jurassic Park, admits that this is pure guesswork. Consider, for instance, the question of how much these dinosaurs weigh. Don Lessam says, scientists don't know how much dinosaurs weighed. Dinosaurs are presented to the public with colorful artistic reconstructions, drawings, models, mannequins, gigantic skeletons in museums, cartoons and movies showing these beasts in explicit detail, but the fact is, from the assigning and arrangement of bones in each species, to the impossible to discern soft tissue, skin, eyes, noses, color, hairiness, texture, etc., just like the many supposed ape-man species, all dinosaur reconstructions are 100% fictional fabrications created by invested and inventive evolutionists. They purposely present dinosaurs to children in the media to spark and bias their young imaginations toward their machinations. Cartoons like Ice Age and The Land Before Time, movies like Jurassic Park and Dinosaur Island, coloring books, dolls, plastic toys, elementary school textbooks, and huge displays in children's museums certainly have an effect on budding young minds. National Geographic and the Ice Age movies were produced by Mason Rupert Murdoch's News Corp and 20th Century Fox. The Masonic production company Universal Studios created Jurassic Park and The Land Before Time. They are owned by Comcast, whose main shareholders are Masons, J.P. Morgan, and the Rothschilds. Discovery Channel, which features many dinosaur documentaries, is also financially advised by N.M. Rothschilds and Son Limited. Former paleontology student Michael Forsell claimed on a radio interview with leading paleontologist Jack Horner that he was a total fraud, fabricating evidence and perpetuating the myth of dinosaurs. He continued on saying, "I started my career in the field of paleontology only to leave my studies once I realized the whole thing was a sham. It's nonsense. Most of the so-called skeletons in museums are actually plaster casts. They even do it openly on documentaries now, preserving the bones my ass. I struggled as a student mainly because I could not tell the difference between a fossilized egg and an ordinary rock, and of course there is no difference. I was treated like a leper when I refused to buy into their propaganda and promptly left the course. Dinosaurs never existed. The whole shebang is a freak show. They just grab a couple of old bones and form them into their latest Frankenstein's monster-like exhibit. We are all being fooled and it's wrong, but together we can stop it." Many claim that since dinosaur fossils have been radiometrically dated to be tens of millions of years old, that their authenticity is thus proven. The fact is, however, that the methods used to date dinosaur fossils involve not measuring the actual fossils, but the rocks near where they are found. Most fossils are found near the surface of the Earth, and if a modern-day animal were to die in the area, paleontologists would be likely to date them the same age. Dr. Margaret Helder, in her book Completing the Picture, a handbook on museums and interpretive centers dealing with fossils, she writes, "Scientists used to be very impressed with the potential of radiometric for coming up with absolutely reliable ages of some kinds of rocks. They do not feel that way anymore. Having had to deal with numerous calculated dates which are too young or too old compared with what they expected, scientists now admit that the process has many more uncertainties than they ever would have supposed in the early years. The public knows almost nothing about uncertainties in the dating of rocks. The impression that most people have received is that many rocks on Earth are extremely old and that the technology exists to make accurate measurements of the ages. Scientists have become more and more aware, however, that the measurements which the machines make may tell us nothing about the actual age of the rock." One of the main reasons that evolutionists needed the existence of dinosaurs was to answer the complicated problems present in the theory of evolution, including sea-dwelling animals evolving into land dwellers, reptiles evolving wings, feathers, flying and becoming birds, as well as other reptiles evolving warm blood, live births, breasts, and becoming mammals, through their imaginary multi-million-year timeline and a variety of supposed transitional dinosaur forms. The paleontological establishment has been promoting various sea dinosaur, reptile/birds, and reptile/mammals to bridge these gaps. Many professionals and experts in the field have disputed such findings as often as they have been presented, however. Dr. Storrs Olson, a Smithsonian Institute scientist, wrote, "The idea of feathered dinosaurs and the theropod origin of birds is being actively promulgated by a cadre of zealous scientists acting in concert with certain editors at Nature and National Geographic, who themselves have become outspoken and highly biased proselytizers of the faith. Truth and careful scientific weighing of evidence have been among the first casualties in their program, which is now fast becoming one of the grander scientific hoaxes of our age. No authentic feathers have ever been found with dinosaur fossils, though a few exposed hoaxes certainly attempted to fake it. Dr. Olson called the adding of feathers to their findings hype, wishful thinking, propaganda, nonsense fantasia, and a hoax. In the 1990s, many fossils with feathers were supposedly discovered in China, suspiciously close to the Zhejiang Dino Ocean Art Company, but when examined, Dr. Timothy Rowe found the so-called Confuciusornis was an elaborate hoax. He also found the Archaeoraptor, supposedly discovered in the 90s, was composed of bones from 5 different animals. When Dr. Rowe presented his findings to National Geographic, the head scientist reportedly remarked, "Well, all of these have been fiddled with." National Geographic then proceeded with their news conferences and media stories about the Archaeoraptor fossils being genuine and having found the missing link in evolution. Robin Kofod wrote, "In 1999, National Geographic magazine was busted when they presented in a colorful and fancily presented article the missing link, an Archaeoraptor dinosaur, which was supposed to support the basic tenet of evolutionary theory that dinosaurs had slowly developed over millions of years. Their proof consisted of a fossil where carefully arranged bone imprints gave the impression of a creature half dinosaur and half bird. The scam was discovered during a CT scan which uncovered unnatural bone links. National Geographic magazine was later forced to admit, when pressured, that the fossil was man-made." Paleontologists claim that Archaeopteryx is another transitional form of bird evolved from dinosaurs, but this theory falls on its face against overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Other species like Confuciusornis, Launingornis, and Eolalavis have all been found to be contemporary with the Archaeopteryx and are indistinguishable from present-day birds. Alan Fiducia from University of North Carolina, one of the most famous ornithologists in the world, stated, "I've studied bird skulls for 25 years, and I don't see any similarities whatsoever. I just don't see it. Theropod origin of birds, in my opinion, will be the greatest embarrassment of paleontology of the 20th century." Larry Martin from the University of Kansas, a paleoornithologist, says, "To tell you the truth, if I had to support the dinosaur origin of birds with those characters, I'd be embarrassed every time I had to get up and talk about it." Even if dinosaurs did evolve into birds to fill their evolution gap, it does not explain how something like the common housefly could have evolved. Flies flap their wings simultaneously 500 times per second. Even the slightest dissonance in vibration would cause them to lose balance and fall. But this never happens. How could they evolve such an amazing and specialized ability? Why were dinosaurs never discovered before the evolutionist renaissance in the mid-19th century? Why do paleontologists think they can reconstruct an entire species of ancient animal from a few teeth? Why have so many dinosaur discoveries turned out to be hoaxes? Why are all authentic dinosaur fossils kept under tight lock and key away from any independent analysis? Why has erosion and weathering not destroyed all these supposed prints and fossils that are allegedly millions of years old? If dinosaurs were supposedly wiped out by a meteor impact or other such catastrophe, why is it that all the other various animal species that exist today were not similarly wiped out? There are many more questions which need to be answered before anyone in their right mind should consider the existence of dinosaurs anything but a convenient evolutionist myth. Robin Kofod wrote, "The paleontological establishment can control which hypotheses will be constructed through textbooks and the curriculum. In this way, students are brainwashed into a pseudo-reality controlled by text material and the teacher's authority. A short practical example. A random dental bone is found at an excavation site, and from this dental bone, the rest of the skeleton is guessed at. We are not kidding about this. The entire dinosaurian field of the paleontological program is a sham."